Okay, well, I'm back now. So let's see how this works. It's a little bit close. All right, here we go. Let's see if this works. Okay, so we have one. Let's build it up and we'll go. And tell me if this is better. All right, we're at 6. Hey, Alicia. Nice to see you all the way from Victoria, Canada. And Adrian, you like your plan? I'm sure you did. It's very difficult, but I'm sure you can do fine on it. Let's get the numbers up. We're at 16, 17. All right, we got people. All right, much better. Thank you very much. You need a plan. You always need a plan. Ever since I've known you, you've needed a plan. Okay, so let's see if I can find that question. Well, first of all, I just want to say this, just so that you're aware of this. I'm 30 days out of a show, and I'm doing a very strict diet, and I'm completely have no energy. And not just that, I don't have energy. These are the things that you don't really want to do, especially it's not the best of the diets. What it does is it leaves my mind a little bit vacant, which means that I'm a little bit not as focused and not as clear. And that's what happens with anyone who doesn't eat carbohydrates. So, when you go on a very difficult, strict diet, it changes not only who you are, how you think, how you act, it changes everything. And I'm going through that phase right now. So you have to bear with me because I'm going to probably lose my train of thought and all of these different things as we go along. Okay, but understand that. I don't know that I'm going to be on here too long because of the energy that it takes, but I'm doing my very, very best. So I hope you can appreciate that. All right. I wanted to talk about, I had a meeting with someone today, and they brought up some concerns, and I thought that I would discuss them. And the concerns that they brought up were about understanding the food. And obviously this program isn't really just about food, it's about lifestyle, but a big part of success comes down to food. So you need to understand as best as you can how to manage food and how to manage this plan effectively to make change. What I want to say first of all about that is that there's 6 steps to success that are my perspective, and the one step that is the most important, and it's number 6, is that remember that consistency is much better than perfection. So you don't want to try to be perfect here. If you're going to try to be perfect, you're going to literally fail. And not only will you fail, you're going to set yourself up for disaster. And this is something that I think a lot of people actually don't take seriously enough. Because that's exactly what I heard today. No, I'm a perfectionist and I have to do things like this. It's if I'm not perfect, then I get off track. And if I get off track, I lose control, complete control, which I understand to some degree. But if you are trying to be perfect and you maintain, let's call it perfection for a little bit, it's kind of like a fault in the earth, the longer it's stuck in one position, the bigger the earthquake when it shifts. Meaning, when you're following a plan and you're trying to be perfect, when you finally slip up, it's like opening up Pandora's box. And what happens is you just let loose. And so this becomes the never-ending encyclical cycle of up and down with dieting and weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, weight loss, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, feeling of guilt, elation, all because of food. So First of all, we probably have to accept the fact that you've got to get away from the idea of perfection. It doesn't work. I try to use analogies as best as I can. It maybe helps you to understand, but when you're driving down a road in your car, the design of the road is that there's two lines, one in the middle of the road and one on the outside of the road. Well, in most countries, in Malta you might not find that, to be honest with you, but anyway, on the major roads you would. And you would have the line in the middle and the line on the outside. And the line in the middle it represents danger, because what it represents is if you cross that line into oncoming traffic, the chances are, especially if there's a car coming, that you're going to get hit head on and maybe die. So, one line creates an outside line of boundaries. The other line is the line that takes you off of the road and off a cliff, on the side of the sidewalk, into someone's farm, or whatever the case is. So you have these two lines, and they're there to guide you. However, the car fits in the lines rather easily. As a matter of fact, the car can go in the right direction, but still zigzag all the way down the road, meaning there's flexibility. And when it comes to eating, and when it comes to certain things, amounts of foods and such, even the types of foods, there has to be flexibility, and you have to be ultimately the one in charge of that flexibility. You cannot be rigid. If you're going to be rigid, you're going to have some serious problems. Okay, so the body just doesn't want to work that way. I mean, if you're going to be too rigid, you're going to end up you're going to binge. You're going to you're going to be thinking about food constantly. You're going to be thinking about. I know what it's like, because I'm actually in that state right now, where I'm being so strict that you're almost in a position of where you can only think of donuts or whatever the case is, So it's very important that you try to bypass that mentality and relax a bit on this. This is not a 1 week journey, a 1 month journey. It's not a 6 month journey. If there's anyone on here who's been in the program 2-3 years ago, and I know that there are people that have made fantastic changes. But not because they were perfect, because they were consistent. And that's ultimately the trick, is to be consistent. Okay? So remember that. That has to be probably your number one priority, is to be consistent, not to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. Okay? Period. So let me just, as I said, let me sort of scramble around like a kite in the wind here. So Mariella asked a question. She said, after 1.5 hours of walking, can I eat a protein bar because I go walk before snack time? So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, if you wrote this right, you're going to go for an 1.5 hour walk, have a protein bar, and that's your snack? Or you're going to have a protein bar before your snack? And either way, having a protein bar after 1.5 hour walk would not be efficient. And something else, I'm sure you should be doing an 1.5 hour walk. I don't know your weight, so I don't know, I can't tell you that you can tell me actually. I don't know your weight, and I don't know your bone structure from this conversation, but in an 1.5 hours of walking, if it's on the treadmill or it's outside, you're burning a massive amount of calories. Massive. You're probably burning, on average, 600-700, almost 1,000 calories. And if you're going to burn 1,000 calories of energy, which has to come from food, depending on when you're eating, when your meals were, and you burn 1,000 calories, and let's say, for example, your daily intake is 1,400, and you're going to burn 1,000 walking, how are you functioning? Where's the food coming? Where's the energy coming from for your heart, your lungs, your brain? Where's the energy coming to sustain life? And how do you replenish all that energy with a protein bar? You don't touch a protein bar. A protein bar is written as a emergency. As I explained today to someone, a protein bar is like your last resort, really. If you're going to go crazy and maybe you're going to have a chocolate bar instead, have a protein bar. If you're stuck in a meeting and you can't get a meal and it's like it's either McDonald's or a protein bar, have a protein bar. But a protein bar is full of garbage. Even though we suggest it as an emergency, we do that because we're not about being perfect. We're trying to make some flexibility in the plan so that you can sustain this without crashing. But a protein bar is garbage. There's lots of fat in a protein bar, probably 12 grams of fat, which is probably half of your total intake for the day in a protein bar. Plus, it's high in sugar. Plus, it's the ingredients of this is something that when you put into your body, it's going to break down so quickly and so rapidly. It's like putting a roll of paper into a fire. So, if you have a fireplace in your house and the house is cold and you want to heat it up and you throw a bunch of paper, you pack the fireplace full of paper and then you light it, the paper's gone like this, which means that it might take 10 seconds to burn all that paper, and in reality, your food is supposed to last you anywhere between 2.5 to 3 hours. So no protein bar is going to last you 2.5 to 3 hours. It's going to last you about 15 minutes and provide you short bursts of energy, all coming from sugar. It's going to increase your blood sugar levels, the insulin production, and it will help you to store fat because blood sugar levels will rise and your insulin production will rise. And then for about 2.5 hours, you'll have no food in your stomach whatsoever, so you'll be hungry rather quickly. You might actually, because of that, eat something else that you shouldn't, or you will not eat, and you will feel frustrated that you're not eating, and this will be a negative experience. First of all, eat before you go for the walk, and eat something substantial. So an hour before, it all depends on your day. I don't know where you're doing your walk, morning, night, middle of the afternoon, whatever. We've discussed this before. Either you eat a meal, wait an hour, go for a walk so that the food itself has time to start to digest, which will provide the energy to do that walk, which you should not be doing in an hour and a half anyway. If anything, do 2 45-minute sessions in the day, not an hour and a half. By the way, this is a protein coffee. Have a meal first, and if you're eating an hour beforehand, then you do an hour and a half walk. You're at 2.5 hours. So by the time you walk in the door, it's time for a meal, which would be a meal: rice, potatoes, couscous, quinoa, barley, chicken, fish, turkey, veg. Okay, don't do that. I know people want to lose weight at all costs, and that's because you're not really understanding the concept of weight versus fat. You can lose weight by doing this. You can starve your body down. You can lose muscle tissue. You will lose muscle tissue. You will burn muscle off, and if you burn muscle off, you become what you call catabolic. And catabolic is essentially using your muscle as energy, and that is not efficient. And that not only affects your body, makes you soft and flabby and saggy and all of those things, but your fat isn't going to go anywhere. Your health isn't going to be increased whatsoever. Your health is going to be diminished. All right, and not only that, it's not going to give you the result that you're looking for. So it doesn't make any sense to do it. You have to get that out of your mind. Okay. Does that answer your question? Will that change your opinion on what you're doing? Because I don't understand really, to be honest with you, why that decision is made without being asked. I mean, I'm reading it now, and I'm not reading that question with a question mark. I'm reading that as a statement of what you've already done. If you were to ask me that question, I'd tell you absolutely do not do that. And it only makes sense that, if you go to school and your teachers tell you what to do properly, that you would follow it so that you get the success. All right, let me see what's going on if there's any other questions. Can I replace chicken with beans? All right, well, chicken is a pure protein. It's a biological protein, so it is the best source. Well, aside from white fish, it's the second best source of natural protein. Biological protein is the best. Biological meaning is from an animal, from a living tissue. So fish would be white fish first, then chicken, and turkey, and so on and so forth. Beans, chicken and beans, they're not comparable in the sense that, yes, they both have protein, but chicken is a complete protein. It has all the amino acids that make it a complete protein. And for our bodies to actually maintain muscle or to build muscle, we need to put in complete proteins. It's the building block to building muscle. Beans only have half of the amino acids, which does not make it complete, so it does not work effectively. This is why vegetarians just are not very healthy. I'm sorry, but vegetarians are not all that healthy. They're not healthy in strength. They're not healthy in the way they look, their bodies. They get ill easier because they are in a lot of ways malnourished. Our bodies don't digest food. It absorbs nutrients from the food. So you need to maximize the nutrients that you're getting. All right? So it's important that you understand that. But if you're going to replace chicken with beans like chickpeas or kidney beans or garbanzo beans, then you would do it. Don't worry about the grams. Don't worry about grams. If that's not the issue at this point in time. If you're having 85 grams of chicken, then it'll literally have 85 grams of beans. Cross it over. Don't get yourself confused with these things. All right, keep it simple. Okay, but if you want a complete protein with beans, you have to have it with rice. So brown rice and kidney beans, there's half of the amino acids in the rice and the other half in the kidney beans. Which leads me to a point. When you're looking at substitutions, this is very, very simple. As I said in the beginning, I'm not to take you down a path to try to educate you on all of these things in a very scientific way. I think would be a little bit difficult for most of you, and it would go over your heads. Not to say that anyone's ignorant, but I mean, it's not the most easiest things to explain or to digest in a conversation. Since we are on the guidelines of being healthy, what we want to do is to keep things relatively simple, so we're in the middle of the road, in the lines. So we don't need to be perfect here. So if, for example, your plan says 100 grams of rice and you want to change it for couscous, and you see the substitutions, and you say, well, can I have couscous, but how much couscous? Or how much quinoa, or how much barley? Cross it straight over. 100 grams for 100 grams. You may be up a little bit in protein. You may be up a little bit in carbs. You may be down over at another meal. It's irrelevant. In the very end, it all balances out. Don't get very anal about these things at this point in time. You don't need to sit there and micromanage your food to that degree. You will drive yourself crazy. You'll be sitting down with a calculator trying to figure everything out, because everyone's plan is different. I mean, for 1,600 calories or 2,000 calories, you got to start writing numbers. How do I figure out how many? Okay, rice, 250 grams. How much do I need? And it starts to become all too confusing. So if it says 150 grams of chicken, 150 grams of fish. The only time that I would ever reduce that number is always when you're putting in salmon, because it's a high-fat fish, and when it comes to beef. So, for example, which is very simple, if it's 150 grams of chicken, it would be, for example, 120 grams of beef. And if it's 150 grams of chicken, it would be like 120 grams or 100 grams of salmon, just because of the fat content, because both beef and fish have a lot of fat. Okay? Does that answer that question? Because this is where people get really bogged down and they get stuck. And getting stuck when it comes to these issues with food, it's a waste of time being stuck. You don't need to get stuck on these things. All right? It's not necessary. Let me see what other comments. Ask away. So there's no more questions? Or are you writing it somewhere else? Write a comment. Is smoked salmon a good source of protein? Yeah, it's fine. Salmon's fine, but it's not something that you want to have all the time. Fats are okay. Obviously fats are fine. Essential fats, which is something that comes from salmon, is good, but not too much. And anytime you're having an essential fat, you reduce essential fats in other meals. So you wouldn't have natural peanut butter for breakfast and then salmon at night, and you wouldn't be dumping a bunch of fat in everywhere because, it's logic, isn't it? If your body's full of fat, whether it's good fat or bad fat, because we have good fat in this as well, but if your body's full of fat, and you're ingesting more fat than you're burning in a day, you're still going to get fat. So you'll never burn the fat. And this is something that has to be looked at when someone, I think it was Mariella, said she's not losing any weight. First of all, I'm not going to say who I saw today, but, I spoke to the person today and they said, it came down to this. The gist of it. I checked the scales, I'm not losing any weight, but my pants are almost falling off of me. So what does that tell you? So this is a very significant, it's a very significant example. Because what it's saying is that you're not losing weight, okay, because our bodies are made of bone, water, muscle, fat. So your water could be elevated because maybe you're eating more food, maybe you're eating higher carbs than you were before, or lots of things, every time you eat carbohydrates, they hold almost 10 times the amount of water. So that increases weight, water in the muscle cells, so you makes your muscles heavier. But if you're losing size, you're only losing that from fat, especially if you're keeping the same weight. So this is something that you need to look at. So when someone says, I'm not losing any weight, it's something I don't care. It's the wrong focus. If you're not losing weight, you're not losing size, you're not gaining energy, you're not getting stronger, you're not getting more clear, these types of things, then there's an issue. And Alicia, we do kilos over here. So what's 20 pounds? I think that's about 8 kilos. It's important that you understand the difference. If you're not losing fat and you're not making those types of changes, then something has to be looked at. There's an answer for that. And this can come down to lots of different things, and it can come down to hormonal issues. It can come down to, hormonal issues, just off the top of my head. Are you stressed? Are you freaking out? Are you nervous? Are you working lots and not sleeping much? Are you unhappy with things in your life? Because this increases what we call cortisol. And if your cortisol levels are high, good luck losing fat. Your body's going to store fat. That's why, again, I'm going to use myself as an example. I just try to minimize as much stress as I can right now because it's the worst thing for me. Stress will destroy what I'm working for. So, because cortisol, when it rises, it wastes your muscle. It attacks muscle. So it will destroy it, all the while storing fat. So, you just have to start looking at, these things if you're not changing. Now, obviously, going back to Mariella, if you're doing an hour and a half of walking per day, you're not going to be losing fat. You're going to be storing it because you're basically burning muscle tissue like crazy. You're going to slow your metabolism down because you don't have the energy to do that. You can't take a car, put €5 of petrol in the tank and expect it to drive, 200 kilometers. It's not going to do that. It's going to run out of gas. And some people say, well, our bodies aren't cars. Yeah. Our bodies run just like cars in the sense that we run off of energy, and if we don't have energy, our bodies, will find an alternate source, unlike a car. And unlike a car, then we will find sources from muscle tissue. So we will eat the muscle tissue. Our muscles will dissipate. They will be broken down. They'll be utilized as energy. And then, of course, because the brain is seeing this and it's saying, well, look at that. I'm doing an hour and a half of cardio per day. I'm eating 800 calories of my muscle every single day. I'm losing a kilogram, essentially, of muscle per week, which means in 1 year I'm losing 52 kilograms. So basically I would be dead at the end of that year. So the body's not going to allow that even to happen, not even remotely going to let it happen. So what it'll do is it will slow the metabolism down. It'll start to increase cortisol. You'll store fat. lose muscle tissue, get softer, get flabbier, and completely go in the wrong direction. Stop doing an hour and a half. Is it better to work out in the morning or at night? Whatever you feel like. It makes no difference. You know, it's usually when your energy is the best. I find that after a really long day, you know, my energy is low. I'm tired. You know, and so in the evening I don't really feel like working out, and when I do, I don't have the energy to have a great workout. But some people are not like that. Some people, you know, and for me too, waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning, that's the best way for me to get injuries, because my body's cold and I'm still sort of sleeping. So, you know, for me, the best time is between 10 and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 10 in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when I'm feeling the best. But everyone's different, so it has to. These are things that the answer lies within you. All right. So Charlotte's asking about the substitutions. Can I replace the chicken with beans? Okay. And so I think I've answered that. Don't get bogged down with numbers. It's not. Well, I'll quantify that. Don't say, well, you know, I want to, you know, eat whatever I want, so I'll increase the carbohydrates to however I want. No, you have to stick to the limits that you're given. So if your calories for the day are a certain amount of calories, you have to stay within that zone. But within that zone, you know, it doesn't mean, you know, on the nose. If you're above by 100 or below by 100, your body is not running, it runs an average. All right, so as long as there's consistency, you'll be fine. If today, though, you're eating 600 calories, and tomorrow you're eating 1,500 calories, and the next day you're eating 2,000, there's no room for consistency. The body's not consistent, so all of that will be stored and be a problem. But when you create consistency, if you're around supposed to be 1,600 and you're 15 today, 14 tomorrow, 17 the next day, it all works out to be fine. So when you're changing and swapping out your foods, as I said, go with the numbers that you're seeing. 150 for 150, 80 for 80, not 84 for 84, 120 for 120. Okay, but 150 grams of rice is not equivalent to 150 grams of ice cream. Okay? So, you know, they're not the same. So you know what macros are. You know that macros are fat. There's three of them, fat, protein, and carbohydrates. But carbohydrates, you know, they get broken down as well. But rice is couscous, quinoa, barley, you know, stay away from breads and pastas as much as you possibly can. You're not going to really be losing much when it comes to fat if you're piling down a bunch of pasta, unless you're a cyclist or an athlete, you know, who's consuming a massive amount of calories and burning a massive amount of calories in a day. Avocado is fine. It's in the plan. It's a substitution. Avocado instead of salmon. Salmon instead of natural peanut butter. Natural, you know. So yes, absolutely. But again, to a small degree. You know, you're not going to eat a whole avocado. It contains too much fat. So you can have a bit on your salad and that's it. But that takes away from you having natural peanut butter later on in the day. Okay? This is the biggest issue for people, isn't it? It's the food. It's not no surprise, because I mean, obviously, like, you know, the busiest things on Facebook is when people are posting all about food. Everyone's so, you know, locked into food. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you know, the truth of the matter is that it has to be a balance. Life is about balance, and you have to try to find balance. And anyone who tells you it's not important is making excuses or justifying their reasons why they don't find balance, because balance is necessary. I don't care if you want to run 3 or 4 hours a day. I don't care. It makes no difference to me, as long as your calorie content or your calorie intake for the day is high. Okay, you have to make sure that your levels are up there. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay, I'm not seeing questions. Okay, here's one. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I take a glass of greens before I go for my 1 hour walk. Though I'm noticing that during my walk I start having heartburn. Yeah, that could be that can be lots of things. It can be that just simply the greens are bothering your stomach, and as soon as you have that and it's sitting in your stomach, it's not digesting right away, so it's maybe causing some issues. Obviously, whenever you put it in your stomach, acid has to be in there to get the nutrients out. So. That's just again a preference. If that happens for you, then don't do it. I guess my question would be, if you have anything, protein shake or anything, do you still have the same issue? And if that's the case, then it's a digestion issue, because some people don't have that. Some people, of course, if they eat, for example, carbohydrates, they get heartburn. It's always going to be different. So this again is not there's no specific answer to this that I would say to everyone, hey, don't do this, because some people can go out no problem and eat a massive meal and they don't have heartburn or digestion problems. It's just everyone's different that way. Working out certain problem areas of your body in a gym can be confusing when you have a different instructor telling you different things. My question is it true that if I want to lose fat on my thighs and I'm doing some toning in that area, will they get bigger? All right. This is actually a very common question, and especially with women. First of all, I always feel jealous when I hear this, because I've been training for more than I can remember, and I never grow as quick as women. Women always say, "Oh, as soon as I work out, my legs, they just explode." Well, I doubt it. I don't think they explode and they get huge that quickly. I think what happens is that you start to notice that when you are training them, when you are training muscle tissue and the muscles get, the muscle fibers get torn, as they would. That's how they grow. They get torn, repair. They'll also hold water. So you'll notice that. It's kind of like when you have your period, you gain about maybe 2 or 3 kilos, and people say, "Oh, I feel like I'm a house." That's how big they feel. I am so fat. Well, haven't changed hardly at all. "Oh, my face is huge." It's not at all. But you feel it, so therefore you think it's the way it is, and it's not really the case. So, first of all, number one, you can't spot reduce. So I don't care if you, for example, want to have a 6-pack of abs and you do 4,000 sit-ups a day. You're never going to see your abs if your ass is fat and your legs are fat and your chest is fat. Have you ever seen anyone that was like fat everywhere and that had a 6-pack of abs? It doesn't work that way. You can't spot reduce. So I really don't care if you sit there and do, 6,000 squats. You're not going to lose the fat off of your legs and the rest of your body stays fat. Fat is accumulated overall. Fat storage, fat cells, for example, someone might have 10 trillion fat cells in their glutes and 1 trillion in their upper body. So it looks different because there's more fat cells. But when they lose fat, they will lose it evenly. So it's kind of like what I've said a million times before. It's like having a pool in your backyard. You got the deep end and you have the shallow end. And my question would always be, well, when the sun evaporates the water out of the pool, where does it evaporate faster from? Now ask yourself that question. Where does the water leave the fastest? And you're all going to say right now, the shallow end, because that's how you think, but that doesn't make any sense, because you couldn't take a cup of water out of the shallow end and have a hole there. It is even across the surface, so it drops down a millimeter, an inch, 5, whatever, and it goes down evenly. So when it comes to your body, you're not going to be spot reducing nothing, number one. So that, first of all. So if any trainer or any instructor tells you that, unfortunately that just shows you what they know, or subsequently what they don't know. Now, if you want to lose fat in your thighs, then you better lose fat everywhere. Simple as that. If you are training a specific area, yes, they can get bigger, because then you're doing something opposite. You're building muscle tissue, and muscle tissue, if I only want to train arms in my whole entire life, in the old days, bodybuilders only used to work out their upper body and never their legs. So when they were in the pool, they looked great from the waist up. They were big, and then they got out of the pool, it looked like they were, this big guy riding a chicken, because they had chicken legs, So yes, you can build muscle and be specific with that. So yes, you can train your legs and they will get bigger muscular wise, yes, for sure. But they are not going to be losing fat specifically. Does that answer that question? Is that it for questions? I need input. It's always, strange when I'm talking to the screen by myself, so I need some kind of input. Are you guys there? Because I don't see, let me refresh the page here. You have to bear with me because I'm looking. All right, well, so there's no questions. I can't, I can only make things up as I go with questions, to be honest with you. I'm not in a position to come up with stories this evening. I want to say something because I'm not sure who told me this before, but I want to make a point as well. This is nothing to do with. Okay, no, hold on a second. I'll deal with that in a second. Why am I seeing? How come I'm seeing questions on the iPad and they're not on there? Sorry, guys. Let me just have a look. What's the best way to increase energy levels? Well, energy is food, right? That's the first thing. That's the first thing. If you're not eating enough food, your energy levels will be low. There are some natural things that you could probably take, natural supplements. Ginseng is one of them. Stay away from Red Bulls and stay away from these nasty chemical drinks to increase energy levels. When you increase energy levels, it's a good question, because the truth of the matter is that this is probably what a lot of people need. They want higher energy levels, and they also want fat burning properties, so supplements that help burn fat. And this is what spawned, killing agents like fen and all of these different, like hydroxycut and all these pills that have gotten so many women hooked on fat burners. You can stimulate energy levels by stimulating your adrenal glands, and that you can do by taking supplements, like I said, like hydroxycut or any of these things. But you don't want to be expressing your adrenal glands constantly. Aside from the fact that it makes you nervous and frustrated and irritable, it can cause some serious damage in the long haul. All right. So you try to stay away from doing that chemically. It creates a dependency. And I don't know if anyone is really decent to be around when they're on, tablets that increase the energy like that. As I said, so I would look at things like maybe ginseng and natural herbs and remedies like that. I'm not saying that coffee is the best, because it's really not. But a cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee a day will help, especially, as long as you keep drinking a lot of water. Maybe increase some of your fruit, so it depends. Before your workout, maybe put some fruit into your plan at that point. That will help you as well. Food is energy. So, eating foods that will provide energy. All foods provide energy, but quicker bursts of energy are going to come from simpler carbohydrates, which are simple sugars. So that's, for example, as I said, fruit, yogurt with fruit, agave syrup on something, so something like that will help you. It won't spike your energy levels. It'll give you sort of like a buzz. I mean, you don't want to give your kid a chocolate bar to increase their energy levels, because they'll have this high, they'll bounce off the walls, and then they'll have a crash. And you don't like the crash, and it's not good, and you don't want that for yourself either. So those are the things that I would look at. How to increase muscle, please? By increasing weight? Yeah, increasing muscle, number one, to increase muscle, you have to increase food. You can't build muscle without eating a surplus of food. So you have to eat more calories than your body actually needs to build muscle. You can't eat less. You won't build muscle when you're eating less. It's like saying, you need 1,000 euros every month to sustain your lifestyle. And then you ask, how can I, save money to buy a home? Well, then you need to make 1,200 and save 200 euros per month. So you need to have more. But if you say to me, how can I increase my bank account and savings when I need 1,000 a month and I'm only making 800? It's impossible, So obviously the simple answer: increasing your calories. Yes, weight training. So increase your activity levels, thus increase your energy levels by eating more food. Simple as that. Is it healthy to do ab crunches daily? Yeah, it's not a problem. I mean, you do crunches every day anyway. Every time you talk, every time you argue, every time you get freaked out, every time you get up off the couch, every time you pick up groceries, your stomach, your core muscles are always being used. So it's not like you are ever going to burn them out. No, you can work on this consistently. It's not a problem. Oh, you know what? I think I'm not on the group page, am I? I'm on an open page. Interesting. Oh, no, I'm on the group page. I'm on the group page, right? Or am I not? Oh, my God, I'm not. Excellent. So I'm open to the public right now. That's why I'm not seeing the questions. Sorry, guys. Is it true that having the last meal at 6 p.m. helps in reducing fat? No, it's more accurate. It's having the last carbohydrate meal at 6 p.m. reduces fat. So by not putting carbohydrates that your body has to burn off later, but continuing to eat afterwards, that will make the difference. So you want to continue eating throughout the night at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, but you want to make sure that you're not eating carbohydrates after 6 or 7, because by eating carbohydrates, the body will have all this stored energy that it needs to burn. And if you're not doing anything, it's not going to burn it, so it's going to store into fat. Meal prep takes some time, so it's obvious that it's nearly all about food. Well, I mean, I don't know, Maria. To be honest with you, meal prep doesn't take that much time. It depends on your preferences. For example, I can make 60 meals in an hour. 60. I can make them for the week. How? By sticking 4 trays of chicken breast in the oven, having the rice cooker going, and every 20 minutes, every 15 minutes, rice is done, having 60 containers on the counter, getting frozen veg. So when the chicken's done, throw one in each container, throw the rice in, and throw my veg in. There's 60 meals. And I can vary with my spices and herbs if I want. After it's there, I can put the lids on, stick them in the freezer, and how simple is that? Now, if you want to have food and make it a culinary experience, and you want to sit back and have this luxurious dinner, then that takes time. But it all comes down to, food is energy, and it's, our culture has made it something more. But food is just truly petrol to the car, so it's not necessary, to be honest with you, that you have to sit there and have this amazing meal. You can eat the same thing. I eat the same thing every single day. And every once in a while, maybe I'll have you've seen my meal prep, so you see I might put onions and green peppers, I might cut potatoes, whatever, but it all takes hardly any time whatsoever to make a meal, and my chicken's already pre-made, my rice is pre-made, so it's a 5-minute deal. So it's, it's not necessarily true that it takes so long. BCAAs is a product. It's branched chain amino acids, so it's not about hydration. It's about funneling amino acids back into the muscle, so replenishing the muscle. a hydration product is because you're blowing out water. So, one would be BCAAs, which is a protein to support muscle growth, and Powerade or Gatorade is a hydration drink that you would use to replenish your potassium and your sodium levels and keep your water balanced. What else? Any more questions? I think that's... if I go to the gym at 7 and I'm home late, is it bad to have dinner around 9? No, not at all. I mean, you could eat chicken and veg a half hour before you go to bed, as long as it doesn't upset your stomach. For some people, for example, eating too much food before they go to bed, even chicken and veg, if you have a sensitive stomach, you might be lying in bed and that food isn't digested yet, so while you're sleeping it may want to come up, so you choke in your sleep, which is not a good feeling. I wouldn't eat something that takes energy to break down. So chicken takes energy to break it down, so I wouldn't go to bed at 11 by having a chicken meal at 10:30, though a protein shake, not a problem. Or I take that protein shake and maybe make it craps, whatever you want to call it, okay? In this country, it's a crap. So if you want to have a crap before you go to bed, then do that. But it is a solid, but it's basically made out of protein and egg whites, so it's going to break down rather quickly and not cause you any digestion problems. All right? But if you're at 9 o'clock, is not bad, especially if you're going to bed at 11 or so. Okay. Any other questions? Because at this point, I think I'm going to, I feel my brain kind of going on fire. What is a good snack to have in the evening, say between dinner and bedtime? Between dinner and bedtime. So between dinner, your meal, and a bedtime snack, so in between that, or because it sounds like you want to snack between the two meals, or you want to snack between dinner and going to bed. And if that's the case, lots of things. Egg white omelet with some, veg, some, green onions, tomatoes, something like that. Even a little bit of cheese, low-fat cheese. If you check on my page, I do a good pudding, so I take protein powder, I mix it with water, stir it up real thick, maybe mix in a little bit of yogurt, put in some frozen strawberries or raspberries, shove it in the freezer, and I have ice cream. But it's made out of protein. Hard-boiled eggs, popcorn, not much, a cup or 2 cups of popcorn, unbuttered and unsalted. Popcorn is not going to kill you before you go to bed. An hour or 2 before bed, it'll break down rather quickly. So, if you feel like something sweet, I would go with using your protein powder and making, the pudding. Look at my page for it, or the recipe page. It's amazing, to be honest with you, and you would think that it was a dessert. So. If you're going to the gym and it's time for your meal, better eat or bet. If you're going to the gym and it's time for your meal, better eat or better eat after workout. Work out harder on an empty stomach. No, you don't want to work out in the gym on an empty stomach. You need energy to have that workout. So I have to keep saying this. It takes energy. If you're going to go to the gym for an hour and a half, where are you going to get the energy from? Right? This is where you have to think. Where are you going to get the energy from? So you have to have a meal at least 1 hour before. So have a meal an hour before. Before your workout, you want to have carbohydrates. So rice, chicken stir fry, something like that. If you're slow at digestion, then an hour and a half. Then go to the gym, do your workout, come home, even right after your workout, you can I don't want to complicate things, but you can have a protein shake immediately. You can have something simple, like a simple sugar. Forget it. I won't tell you about this. You should be eating right after your workout as well. So time it. So an hour, hour and a half before your workout, do your workout, and then your workout is done. By the time you get home, you're eating right away, because you need to then eat food to replenish the workout. If you are breaking down muscle in the gym and it needs food to repair and there's no food, then you're wasting that workout. You've destroyed the muscle and it's not going to recover. So you have to eat food to recover. But you need to have food to provide the energy to do that. How do I make this simple for you? We live off of food. Our bodies are made to utilize food. We live because we require energy. And energy for our bodies only comes from food. So this is where the answers are really simple. You just have to remember that food is the key to your success when it comes to, providing you energy to be able to do what you want to do. And then, obviously, it's a big part. It's about 80% of your success, food. And then afterwards, you have to put the other aspects in. The training, not just training. You have to have a right attitude. You have to have a positive attitude. You have to be strong. You have to be committed. You have to be resilient. You can't, have a bad day and blow off the gym. You can't say, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to go for a walk. You never build a lifestyle that way. You never change lifestyles that way. You have to be committed on all fronts. All things taken into consideration. Everything has to be as close to 100% as possible. But there are values on certain things. So you place more value in food, because without it, I don't care, you can go to the gym every single day, but if you don't eat right, you're not going to change. But you can eat right totally and not go to the gym and not do any activity whatsoever and still not change efficiently or effectively. So by the way, since I was supposed to be eating, and I couldn't eat because I didn't want to eat in front of you, this is 2 servings of protein, my protein, mixed with some coffee, because I have no energy. So there's 250 calories of protein with water and coffee. So that is my protein shake, but it gives me a bit of energy so I can talk. And that's how that works. So see, that in itself is a treat. Okay. All right. If that's it for questions, I'm going to leave it here. I would ask that when we do this in 2 weeks, because we'll do it again in 2 weeks, that you come, that you're prepared, with questions. But let's not just leave it to food, I mean, what I would ask of you in the next 2 weeks is that you evaluate your circumstances and evaluate your plan and evaluate how you're following your plan. Here's a great question for you. If I at any point ask you this question, when it comes to your eating, are you following it? And out of 100%, obviously being the best, tell me the truth. What are you following it? If you say 50%, okay. If I say to you, out of your workouts, your exercises, are you following your plan 100%? And you say 50%, all right. If I ask you if you're following your cardio, your fat burning, and you out of 100% you say you're doing 50%, well then on those 3 things, out of 300%, you're only giving it 50%. How much are you going to change by providing 50%? Now, if you take that same mentality and you give that to your work, you show up 50% of the time, you're going to get fired. If you put 50% effort into your relationship, it's not going to work. If you give 50% to anything, you're going to suffer. And so if you're trying to change the lifestyle, you cannot give 50%. You have to learn to give 100%. And this is where it's difficult, because sometimes it's so easy. You may say, I want to quit. It's hard. You don't understand. No, I do understand. I understand very well how hard it can be. But if you want something bad enough, you have to ultimately, in the very end, put your mind to it and not let yourself get off track. Because as soon as you let yourself get off track, you are essentially enabling yourself to quit. which enables you to have this rotation of up, down, this yo-yo dieting scenario. If you want to change it once and for all, then you actually have to see this thing through. There's more responsibility placed on yourself than on me in this program. Though people want to look at me and say I'm the responsible person, I'm really not the responsible person. I can be a professor with 100 students in my classroom. And the ones that get the straight A's or the ones that get the highest marks are the ones who take the information, absorb the information, go home and research even more about the information, let's say. They go home and apply the information and they keep working themselves forward. And this is where it has to be in your hands. I can't come to your home. I can't force feed you. I can't make you make the right decisions. I can't get you out of bed to do your walk. I can't do any of these things. I can only do that for myself. And I've learned a long time ago that to be successful at anything, whatever that is, you have to make a commitment to doing so. And you can't let a bad day, a version of a bad day, you can't let anyone else take you off of your track. You can't let, a fight at home take you away from what it is that you want to do. Because when you do these types of things, when anything comes into your life and dislodges you from what it is that's so important to you, you're saying that everything else has more power than you. And you're saying that everything else has more value than you. And everything else and everyone else is more important than you. And then you'll sit there at some point and look at yourself and say, why me? What's wrong with me? How come I'm like this? But you can't ask that question when you gave away your power. So when it comes right down to it, you have to take full responsibility here. We can guide you, we can direct you, we can encourage you. Support, we're always here. But I am not about chasing anyone for support. You have to pick up the phone and make a phone call. You have to send an email. You have to get on this page right here, or the group page. Ask your questions. You've got to take initiative, because that is the first rule for yourself to see that you're serious. I said this before. We never called anybody up to do the program, so we shouldn't have to call you up to continue the program. You have to be consistent, and you have to want this bad. I'm just saying that it's ultimately, in the very end of it all, there's a mentality, and that mentality, which works very, very well, is this: I am responsible. I am responsible. No one else is responsible for how I feel. No one else is responsible for my success. No one else is responsible for my gains or for my demise. And I'm the first person. Some people say, Charles, you can call. If Doreen's online or something, I can give you the number. You can call Doreen at 9997-5670. And if Doreen, she's on there, she can inbox you or something. Now I lost my train of thought. But, I lost my train of thought. That's what happens. That's my brain. But in the very end of it all, it comes down to you. And it's true. It's being responsible. Thank you, Doreen. I am responsible. And the sooner that we learn that, the better. Because, I know what I was going to say. There are people that have made huge successes. And they say things like to me, they say, oh my God, John, thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done this. Or if it wasn't for you. And I've been doing this for 31 years. So, I've heard that many, many times. But if you know me well enough, you're going to know that this is going to be my response immediately after you say that. It's not me. It's you. It's not me. Because then someone else can say, well, because of you, I failed. It's not me either. I want to help everyone. I want to be in a position to, provide information, and sound information, honest information, logical information, common sense information that can make you see the light. Because in the very end, you have one life, and this one life that you have, it best be spent healthy instead of sick and frustrated and angry and looking in the mirror and hating the way you look and the way you feel and no energy and always dieting and spending money on bullshit, this, and being sucked in by everything. As soon as you take responsibility for your life and your actions, the better off you'll be. And the sooner that you take responsibility and the sooner that you get sound information, education, then you follow that, you'll be successful. No two ways about it, but you have to be consistent. There's nobody's going to do that for you. And listen, I'm not telling you that it's easy because, you know, I mean, how many people win a gold medal at the Olympics? Not many. You know, how many people, you know, are, you know, training and competing in shows or doing, how many people are multimillionaires? Not many, because it takes a lot out of people to make things happen. It comes down to your desire. It comes down to your will. It comes back down to how bad you want something. And in the very end of it all, that's you. It's going to always come to you. Okay? All right. That being said, I am out of here. I need to rest now. So, in 2 weeks, spend the time, look at how you're doing things. Are you asking, you know, are you giving yourself 100%? Whatever the concerns or the issues, bring them to the table in 2 weeks from now and we'll address them, okay? So, everyone for tuning in, thank you. It was rare because I was on the public page and not the group page, so we opened this up to public, which I don't usually do. Anyway, that was done. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll talk to you again another time. Peace out.